podcast, episode number 71. You're joining us for the longest running Stadia podcast this side of Google Maps, and you're joining myself, Chris, one of your hosts, alongside the techie teacher himself, Mr. Tom. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good, actually. I've never really felt as good as I am at the moment. I feel invigorated. I feel full of energy. So I'm looking forward to talking some Stadia news this week.
It's all them runs you're going out for. It's all them runs. And below him, returning once again, the man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. How are you doing this fine week?
I'm also doing quite good. I've started running myself as well. I was planning to start, and Tom beat me to the punch. But I've got 3 runs in this week. And 3 more coming next week.
Wow. Well, you've both moved a lot further than I have in the last 6 months, just this week alone. But yeah, well, I'm sure we'll talk more about that as well. But you are joining us for the Sounds of Stadia podcast. Like I said, we've got a great show lined up for you all this week. We're going to be talking about your February Stadia Pro games, EA skating into some new studios, and we've also got a touchdown scored by EA on Stadia's platform. So we've got plenty of stuff to talk about this week, gentlemen. It's been very exciting. And as we finally move out of January, which is the longest month in existence, it would seem, into February, we're starting to see the news slowly start to trickle through. So before we get into all that juicy content, we've got a couple of things to shout out. Of course, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to give us a like down below and subscribe so you're kept in the loop with all of these shows and content that we bring you, because we've got a bit of an update and a bit of a refresh coming on the horizon, because we are, everybody, on the race to 1K. Oh, well, not the race. I suppose we should caveat that a little bit now. We are on the road to 1K.
We've just lost a race to 1K. Shout out to Anthony, your mama knows. He beat us there. Well played, sir. Well played.
Well played indeed. Yeah, so we've seen a fantastic surge this past week in subscribers, and it only happens because of you lovely people out there sharing, commenting and distributing and stuff across all social channels. So we really do appreciate everything you've done for us as we do creep towards that magic 1K mark. As I've mentioned on previous episodes, we've got a bit of a surprise refresh lined up for the channel. Don't worry, it's not going anywhere. We're not changing anything drastically. We wouldn't do that to you lovely people. But we have some special surprises lined up as well. So keep tuned for that. By the time you're listening to this, we may have even ticked past that magical number. So bear with us as we familiarise ourselves with the new rules of YouTube when that happens. Obviously, podcast listeners out there, nothing's going to change for you. Nothing whatsoever. We might tweak the logo a little bit so it stands out a bit more on podcast feeds. But aside from that, everything's exciting. Everything's looking good for us Stadia people out here. And we've got a bit of housekeeping before we dive into the news. Obviously, the road to 1K is one thing. We've been playing a couple of games this week. We'll talk about that because it actually links in with our news story as well. And I have internet finally, everybody. Yay! That's my biggest personal. So forget exercise, looking after yourself and being healthy. I've spent money on improving my internet because I don't leave this room ever.
2021, ladies and gents.
So touch wood, all 3 of us should have good, stable internet connections right now, which has been a while since we've been able to say that.
Make sure to superimpose a buffering icon over Richie's face right now.
Loading Richie's emotions.
I haven't had any random dropouts from my internet since I got my Google Wi-Fi, so I'm pretty happy with the money I spent there.
So I'm pretty sure that's 3 out of 3 of us on Google Wi-Fi now, isn't it? We're all there.
Well, I went on your recommendation, so...
We've all bought into the ecosystem now.
This is marketing. This is it. So forget Stadia adverts, forget physical products in shops. It's all just slowly but surely they get you on the Wi-Fi train, and then you'll keep with Stadia just through that.
I must admit, I did do some research outside of just your recommendation, Tom, and everything I found was pretty much saying, like, Google Wi-Fi is kind of the best best bang for the buck you can get.
Yeah, I did exactly the same thing before I made the jump into it too. So there's definitely something to it. There's something to it.
Yeah.
Well, when I rang up my internet provider to kick up a bit of a fuss this past week after all the issues we were having, even the engineer they sent out when I was discussing the router with them, the router. He basically said, the mesh networks with Google Wi-Fi are fantastic. So I was like, oh, you're not even going to try and offer me a similar product internally. You're just going to straight up recommend a third party. But
I'd imagine all the ISP engineers are aware of how bad the quality of their product is, because they're probably always getting called out to deal with the fact that they're not very good.
Yeah, that is true. They live and breathe pain and suffering through bad internet connections. But Google Wi-Fi, ladies and gentlemen, go check it out. Obviously, part of the Stadia family in a way. You get a hub, you get a router. You're not sponsored, not at all.
You know what? If Google wants to sponsor us, feel free.
Or you could just always leave a little note and saying I was recommended by the Sounds of Stadia podcast, and who knows what might happen from that. But no, we're not sponsored.
We're not. But we will point out as well. Not sponsorships, I guess, but I suppose support and further thing. We should also shout out one of our new patrons this week. Alistair's joined our secret society of Sounds of Stadia members over on patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia. Just like you can join the inner circle as such, where we talk about exclusive private chats, games, questions. We give you a sneak peek. Those lovely people over on patreon.com have actually already seen some of our refresh content for the 1K mark. So, bit of a tease there. But thank you very much, Alistair, for joining our secret circle crew as well. We do appreciate the support, and you, again, anyone out there who's watching, listening, who's enjoyed our content for this past year and a half and helped us push towards that 1K mark, most certainly your support is appreciated too. But let's get into some gaming news, gentlemen. Like I said, we've got a great show with plenty of juicy bits to talk about. It's no longer a quiet, desolate January as we trickle into the month of February when this goes live. We've got some exciting stuff. So we usually start off the show with a little bit of a section about what we've been playing, but it kind of folds in with some of the news. So we'll keep this train rolling. We'll keep this train rolling, ticking over. I do it a little.
I'm just watching the gestures and going with it there. Sorry, I'm vibing.
Vibing with the moves. So Tom, let's get into it. Let's hear
the super sexy special Stadia story segment, aka the news.
Not sponsored by Google Stadia Wi-Fi. Not Stadia Wi-Fi. That could be yet. So, ladies and gentlemen, we kickstart your February with some exciting news. And to be fair, every new month starts off with some exciting news. And that is your pro games that are going to be dropping. So, we know this is coming every single month on the dot. They usually tease us around the end of the previous month. And this month, no different to any other. Except for the amount of games. You've got 3 Stadia Pro games to pick up and claim as of February the 1st in your local time zone areas. They are as follows. Game number 1, Journey to the Savage Planet, which we've known about for some time, obviously from Typhoon Studios, not recently acquired, it was probably a good while back now, by Google Stadia. So it's now forms part of the Stadia Games and Entertainment first party housing crew. This is probably the one that I'm personally most excited for out of the two of them. Either of you two have not actually played this game before?
Nope. I've watched. I've seen some videos on YouTube from different channels that I've subbed to as well. But yeah, I think like you, I think this is the closest we're probably going to get to No Man's Sky for the time being. So I'll eat it up. It's definitely got that sort of vibe to it. But yeah, we should be able to have some fun with that one.
Richie?
Well, I'm a bit worried about streaming something like this one because we all know Alex Hutchinson's views on streamers.
Well, that is true, yeah. So we won't open that can of worms again. But this is obviously the same company whose director, or formerly director, I don't even know what his title is now. The bloke who works at Typhoon Studios tweeted out that infamous tweet about game streamers being penalised, monetised, charged, fined, pulled down, whatever the whole rigmarole was. That go check out that episode way back last year. But in terms of the game, it's super fun. If anyone's not played it before, like Tom said, it's a bit like No Man's Sky. You land on a planet and you essentially have to harvest for resources to take back to planet Earth. You are part of Kindred Aerospace, which is something like the third or fourth highest rated space travel company in the time. So it's a bit of an ironic comedy twist on things. It's not number one. And you get not stranded, I guess, but you get left on a planet to seek out resources for the company. It's got a bit of a Bioshock vibe as well in terms of all the technology is very much, it's futuristic, but it's also out of date. Like it was technology designed in the 80s of what they thought space adventuring was going to look like.
That Flash Gordon-esque sort of like, like ray guns with like the little rings that go around the little, I want to call it like a little knob at the end, but I can't think of a better word for it. A little like bobbly bit at the end of the ray gun.
To be fair,
you know what I'm talking
I think most space stuff is like Star Wars as well. It's like it's the most futuristic stuff, but then when like Boba Fett or something pulls down the visor, it's all juddery and stuttery, and it's not got any focus on it, and the lasers are all glitching all over the place.
It's like Qui-Gon Jinn talking into a lady's razor container.
Exactly. But no, the game's great laugh, great fun. I played about two or so hours of it on xCloud actually back in the day to test out Project xCloud when that was rolling out in beta, and it ran perfectly fine on that. So I'm excited to see what the Employee of the Month edition is, because this is the exclusive version built specifically for Stadia. So yeah, go fill your boots with that one, enjoy that, and check that out, and hopefully you'll have a laugh along the way with the type of comedy that's sprinkled throughout it. And we may have a fest look up on this channel as well. Second game that's dropping is Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light, which is one of those asymmetric kind of team-up games. To me, it could potentially be a Thursday night live stream game, gentlemen, because I believe it's up to 4-player, if I'm not mistaken.
As far as I'm aware, it's only up to 2-player.
Oh,
really?
You are correct. It's only 2.
Oh, what about... Is it Temple of Osiris is 4 then?
Temple of Osiris is 4, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I just figured they were the same in terms of like you all had a character and you had to solve puzzles together from that kind of top-down view.
Not quite, by the looks of things. Not quite.
We'll have to maybe rethink that one. But yeah, it's coming across to Stadia Pro games as well. This is one of those, it sits in that perfect price where it's an older game, it's not too expensive, it feeds into that narrative. I've not checked either of these games out yet, Temple of Osiris or Guardian of Light, but I feel like I would enjoy them.
Yeah, for me, they're just games that you hear come out and go, okay, that's a Tomb Raider spin-off. I'm not really that interested, despite the fact that I have actually been playing Rise of the Tomb Raider.
Oh,
I finally started it.
Wow.
But so I do like the Tomb Raider franchise, but these, I don't know what it is about the spin-off games. I just look at them and go, okay, that's a thing, and then get on with life. It just doesn't really hook me. So
you didn't have the patience to wait to play it with me and Tom then, Richie?
I mean, if you want to play it, I'll watch.
No, the Rise of the Tomb Raider game.
Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry. I've been looking for like what my next game was going to be. I thought it was going to be Immortals Phoenix Rising, but I just haven't been in the mood for like a big open world game. And then I was just like scrolling through my Stadia library, and so I was like, actually, Tomb Raider, it's like quite a bit more linear, a bit more cinematic. That might be what's going to scratch that itch.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'll definitely be coming back to you to get your take on that, because that's another one of those games that I really enjoyed. And it does actually pertain to one of our stories later on in the show, so interesting enough. And final game for the week. Tom, I'll throw this one over to you because, of course, you purchased this game, which is why it's on Pro. That is the rule for anyone who's new to the show. If Tom buys a indie title, it will be Pro within probably the next 2 months. Usually is the rule.
Yeah, it certainly is. That's definitely the curse that it seems to be. Curse or a blessing? I'm yet to discover which one it actually is. But hey, at least I've got the foresight to be able to sort of predict what's going to be coming to Pro at some point soon. And Enter the Gungeon is a great addition to Pro, I think. I think it's a game that a lot of people will sleep on, but it's something that I think in particular a lot of people will find a little bit of enjoyment with. There is a co-op element to it as well, so you can play 2-player co-op with it. It's a sort of not top-down, but it's a 2-dimensional stick shooter using pixel art. It is a rogue-like, once again getting into that debate. But lots and lots and lots of things to do within that game, lots of things to unlock. You essentially progress through lots of tiers of dungeon, or gungeon, I should call it, collecting weapons along the way, using those weapons and the ammunition you get along the way to defeat bosses. And once you defeat bosses, you get credits. Those credits can then be spent on your next life to unlock new weapons or new items that you can use. And the cycle continues again and again and again. But there's a fun little cast of characters there you can pick from, each of them with their own abilities. And yeah, it's just a bit of a laugh. And like you said before, Chris, it's just at that nice price point where it was destined to become a Pro game at some point. So here it is. It's finally here.
This is one where if it wasn't for like the history of Stadia bringing out a game coming to the platform and a couple of months later going Pro, I might have considered buying it.
But, don't worry, Richie.
Yeah, so I'm kind of glad I held off on it because now I've got it for free. So
that's how it goes. That's how it goes with Pro, ladies and gentlemen. I suppose we should probably address the fact that we've not got 6 games for a change. Now, I don't know how our audience feels. Let us know in the comments down below. But we've been conditioned in the latter half of last year to kind of expect 5 to 6 titles every single month, and we've been speculating that every single episode. The well of games is starting to almost dry up a little bit, where how can they keep going at this pace of 5 and 6 titles that not only financially make it viable for Stadia and the developers, but also us as pro subscribers. Now we've hit 3. I personally don't really feel too hardened. I think they're 3 good solid titles to drop on a pro, but no doubt there will be some people out there who are disappointed that they feel like they're being short-handed by 3 or more great games. What's
Probably
your take on it?
I probably think more people are going to be disappointed. Those who have joined later, when we're already getting to like 4, 5, 6 games a month, if that's what they've known, and to see a fall where we've been there since 1 or 2 games dropping. So like they guarantee. I mean, I think they've always just guaranteed at least 1 game every month. Mm-hmm. So, and for me, the numbers being up and down all over. So, and there's always going to be hits and misses. So I think the titles we're getting this time, like, I think could be 3 solid games. Yeah, so I'm perfectly happy.
I'm in agreement with the both of you there. I think, to add a slight twist to it, I think the Stadia team may have been strong-armed somewhat by the sort of events going on towards the latter end of the year, such as like the release of Next Gen, and moving towards the holiday season as well, that we were sort of almost destined to get more games just to sort of like bolster our libraries, but also sort of try to keep us involved in the Stadia ecosystem in a way. 3 is probably the sweet spot, I would say. I'd say any less than, and I'd probably feel a little bit downtrodden by that.
Depends on the title. That. If you're getting a AAA game and 1 indie, I'd say that's a good month.
Yeah, but let's be real as well. Like, how many of the pro games have you not even touched at this point as well? So, you know, when you're getting 6 a month, you don't have time to play all 6 of them. So
it's since we started getting like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Immortals Phoenix Rise, and Cyberpunk, I don't think I've touched a pro game since.
No, and that's very true. Like the amount of Hello Neighbor games that I've got sitting in my library that I've not even touched yet at this point.
I tell a lie. I think I did touch a pro game. Rise of Tomb Raider was a pro game at one point.
Yes.
That's why I have it.
Wow. There you go. There you go. But again, sorry, just to finish off the point there, I was just going to say as well. So moving forwards, you know, three games is probably going to be what we would expect to see. I think we're going to see 3 relatively varied titles as well. But again, I do agree with what you were saying before. With people who've joined the ecosystem later, where they used to 5 or 6 games, yes, it's going to be a little bit different. But look at other services. You don't normally pick up that amount of free games per month. So here we are.
Definitely. It goes back, of course, to, I presume, like the quality, what you expect to see. But we've also got to remember, Stadia have in the past dropped another pro game on us mid-month. We've seen it happen where an announcement comes out, they stealth drop something on a random Tuesday or Thursday, and then it just gets added to pro for free. So just because we're on 3 now doesn't mean we'll wrap up February necessarily on these 3. But yeah, great month, great selection. I think it does vary enough with a decent top quality tier title, and then working its way down to like your indie games. And then again, a Tomb Raider is kind of like a little filler gap game in the middle of that, where it's not quite your AAA Tomb Raider game that you're playing, Richie, but it's still it's got that brand recognition that brings a bit of oomph to the table with it. So yeah, those are your February pro games. Do not forget to claim them, whether you intend to play them or not. They will be added to your library, and if you're getting to a point like us 3 are, to find some of the pro games from way back. If I want to play Samurai Showdown now, I need to scroll for a solid 5 minutes across that Stadia interface to get to the back. So I feel like those older games are actually done a disservice by the Stadia interface. I'm never going to see them again unless I make a conscious effort to scroll for a solid 3 minutes, which... that's bad, right? That's the Stadia interface doing a disservice to the games, because I can't see them, so they're not in my mind's eye, and I'm just not even. I'm not even thinking of them.
I know there's starting to get quite a lot of people in the platform who have over 100 games already.
I mean, I've got a hankering to go back and play SteamWorld Dig now, but I've got to dig through my library just to get to it.
Literally. But I guess in a way, gentlemen, that the pro games have been supplemented this past kind of month and a half, 2 months as well, by free weekend promotions. So we've jumped in and we've played Breakpoint. Did we play Wildlands as a free promo? I can't remember.
We tried to.
We tried to. No, that was Breakpoint we tried to.
Oh, it was Breakpoint, yeah.
And then obviously this past Thursday we played Madden 21. So our second news story of the week is Madden 21 finally arrived, stealth surprise from a random NFL video feed that went out with Snoop Dogg included in it, that it was apparently coming to Stadia this week as part of a free weekend promotion. If you're listening to this podcast now, you've missed the free weekend. Where were you? It was posted and plastered everywhere. But we jumped in on Thursday, because apparently that's when the weekend starts. I wish. And we all jumped in as three Brits who've never played NFL or Madden before, and played several games over just short of 2 hours. And I'd say we learned a lot, to say the least, gentlemen.
Yeah.
So yeah,
we sure
did. So yeah, EA's second game, it gives us a clear indication that the Frostbite engine, which we know a lot of their other titles run on, the likes of FIFA and Need for Speed and a bunch of other titles do run. So it's exciting that now we know it's live, and from the reports we've seen, it runs very, very well. I didn't notice any problems when I was playing it on Thursday, especially now I've got good internet. But gentlemen, I guess I'll throw it over to you two. So Tom and Richie, as amateurs to the sport.
I'm a pro now.
You're a pro now. Pro now. Obviously, you both suffered at the hands of my amateur skills on Thursday night. Go watch that video if you want to see some competitive sportsmanship.
It was entertaining, to say the least.
It certainly was entertaining.
I actually had a blast playing that on stream.
I really did. As three people, I think we all said in our own chat group, as three Englishmen who've never played NFL. Richie, you hadn't even watched the Super Bowl when we played. Still haven't. That just goes to show how little we know about the sport, and we were spared on by our Americans in the chat and some of the lovely Brits trying to learn as we went, I guess. But we all messaged in our group saying, you know what? Even though I didn't know how to play the game, I thoroughly enjoyed playing a sports title once again, because it's been a good while. I've not touched FIFA in a while because I'm waiting for it, EA and Stadia.
It was nice to have like a bit of competition between us going as well.
Yeah, definitely.
We don't often have in the pro games,
in the games that we play. Since the likes of Trials Rising way back
when we were allowed in the same room together. I guess my question for you, gentlemen, free weekend was great. We all got to try it out without spending any money. And I think our general consensus of feedback was the great reason these free weekends work on Stadia is that you don't have to download anything. You don't need to commit to a 20 gig download and a half an hour wait to play the game. You literally see free promo, click it, and you're playing it within 10-20 seconds, and it's such an amazing thing to get into. But what my kind of follow-up question is, you two tell me that you've been playing still into the weekend. So Tom, I guess you can start. Do you know how to play NFL now? Are you a seasoned veteran?
I'm sure Richie's going to probably touch on exactly the same points as me, but I had the opportunity to jump into the face of the franchise mode, which is it's one of these modes where you get to customize your own player, and you sort of relive their story of going through high school, through college, and then break into the NHL.
FIFA players, it's like the journey.
There we go. But one of the very first things it does is it runs you through like a little drill, and it literally covers all of the mechanics in terms of all the different button presses, the different combos you can do. And I just thought, I sat there, this is after we played our stream, and I was like, so I could have done all of that stuff. Like, for example, like you can double tap B to like double tap the throw button to sort of like fake a throw before you do it. And you can even fake the throw and chuck it to somebody else instead.
And you can do stuff like you can change like how you throw as well. So you can throw like a just standard pass, like a bullet pass, which is got a bit more pace on it. So there's stuff like that. We didn't have a clue about.
Not at all. But my experience has been fantastic, actually. Another thing I found out as well is actually the exhibition, the quick matches, I suppose, if you want to call them that. They have a lot more of that arcadey feel to them too. So where you've got like Chris, I know you mentioned in the live stream all of these like mad camera angles and like things explode like fireworks and stuff like that. The announcers talking over it. You get that vibe massively in the exhibition, like the quick matches. I've really, really enjoyed the time I've played with it, and so much so that I actually bought the game as well. So I actually went ahead and bought the Superstar Edition. Wow. So I probably will be playing some more of it. But again, another reason why I purchased is because I want to see more of those EA Sports titles. I want to, I want to put my money where my mouth is and get EA invested in Stadia. I did it with Jedi Fallen Order. Now I'm doing it with this as well. So I just want to show my support for the platform. But actually, it runs like a dream.
It was on sale as well, right?
It is. It's a pretty decent sale as well.
I think
down
the sale
60%.
might have ended. I think the sale coincided with the long weekend. I'm not 100% on that though, with the free play weekend.
But I suppose that's the hook, isn't it? You do your demo essentially, and then if you like it, he's a really tantalising offer to get you in the door while it's a such short time period.
It works.
Yeah,
it clearly does.
Well, the fact that I don't think would either of you have played the game if it wasn't on the free play weekend.
Not at all.
Probably not for that price initially, no.
So there you go. They've made the sale because of the free play weekend.
Wow,
good business tactic.
I did actually come close to buying it, but I ultimately decided not to, because what I found is I had a blast playing through the face of the franchise mode. I got all the way to the point where I actually signed for the San Francisco 49ers.
Oh, so, your team
did it. He's done it.
I got drafted, and that's why I kind of jumped off. But I felt it was more like, as much as I was enjoying it, this is probably like, it's the novelty of a sports game on the platform. It's not really my sport, so it's like, how much am I realistically going to be playing after this point?
That's fair enough.
But yeah, it runs incredibly well. But I should mention the cutscenes though.
I'm glad you're touching on this.
What about them?
They are trash. Like, you look at PS2 level graphics in them, and did you see any like glitches and like the shoulder pads?
I tended to see it was things with like the facial expressions. I don't know if it was just like the choice of eyes or lips or facial shape that I picked for my character.
I found like the shoulder pads were kind of jiggling,
vibrating.
Yeah,
it's that meme, that gif of Shaq. Yeah,
but there's stuff like I started off in high school playing for the Dragons, and now our uniforms are like orange, but it looked almost like Microsoft Paint, like fill orange. There's just like no color gradient to it at all, no really lighting effects or anything. It just,
I think,
it was weird. Like,
they create good sports simulation. Like it genuinely feels great when you're on the pitch. But I think as soon as you zoom in on the engine and you're up close and personal with the characters, you suddenly start to see they're not that great at modeling. Like, they're not that good.
But what I don't get
or
is,
at least the rigging.
I have played the Journey in FIFA, and while it wasn't like the best graphics I've ever seen, it wasn't that bad. Where I genuinely think the graphics in the cutscenes are bad. But to be fair, it's a cutscene. Who cares that much?
Yeah, let's be real.
Yeah. It was noticeable.
People don't play Madden for the storyline, let's be honest.
Yeah. I think it goes a long way as well, as we talk about Madden, but we don't really know how big of a scale the studio is in comparison to something like FIFA, which is a global sport. It's not isolated to North America. I'm sure a couple of other countries as well. But whereas, football, there must be a bigger audience for that. I mean, we have like the English, fourth tier is in that game. That just goes to show like how far down the ladder that sport really like gets its hands into everyone's pockets. And the facial animations we know from FIFA, the Premier League players are fantastic, but as you start creeping down the leagues, it turns into generic Billy 101. And there's nobody looks any different from any other player. But let's put a touchdown on that story, gentlemen, and move on to the next one, because the same people who were bringing us that will eventually be bringing us FIFA, so might as well give you a FIFA update this week, as we now have Madden. So I'm very, very hopeful, and I'm sure a lot of our audience are out there, which all the Madden posts from the Stadia team, bless them, still get inundated with, that's great, but where's FIFA? Which I do have to laugh at. So we are now 114 days away from console launch back in 2020. We know it's coming winter. Hopefully the winter is on its way out for everyone in this hemisphere anyway. And this should be a good sign that it's imminently due, right, gentlemen? It can't be far off now, surely. We're going to start getting to the next
Frostbite game. Frostbite's now on the platform and running well. I can't imagine it's that far off. Maybe it was just like, we're going to focus on getting Madden out first, and then FIFA will come follow straight after.
Test the water, and then and I would certainly imagine it's going to come with a free weekend and probably a heavily discounted price. Seems like common practice for EA at this point on Stadia.
It should go. Yeah.
Yeah. If it comes out around about the 25 mark on sale, I'll probably buy it.
Yeah, I mean, if you were this close to Madden and you've never even played that before this week, FIFA, which is I suppose your sport of choice, I guess.
Yeah, I think I was probably closer to Madden, give it a bit more of a pass in terms of the length of time it's been out on other platforms, because I'm not involved in like the NFL. I don't watch NFL, so the way the seasons tick over I don't even know when the season actually kicks off. Where I'm very aware of especially the Premier League in the UK, when that kicks off and how long it's been going.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess actually the next story then, Richie, does just pertain to you out of all of us who's played Tony Hawk's. But EA News this week also dropped that they are launching a new studio specifically to develop a new skate title. So off the back of the previous kind of news stories we've had about them working on new games upcoming, we always hear about this at the beginning of most years, rumours and such. But yeah, they've announced a studio called Full Circle, and they're going to be working on a skate game, which I think they did announce this game back in E3 last year, but they didn't have any actual content to show. It was just two guys sat on two chairs basically saying, we're going to make a skate game. And they're finally committed to it. So Deeran Chung and Kuz Parry, I think, two of the creators from the original skate games, are essentially pulling together a studio to work exclusively on this. Skate 4, I guess it is. Richie, you're the Tony Hawk's guy amongst us. Does Skate do anything for you? And what do you think a new studio means to their commitment?
I mean, first of all, a new studio pretty much underlines EA's commitment to bring out a new skate game. Otherwise, they wouldn't have announced they just brought a new studio to build a new studio with this going to be the first title. So that suggests that, maybe this studio is going to be the Skate franchise studio. I've never played a Skate game. I've only ever played Tony Hawk. I've only ever played Tony Hawk's.
You're a loyal fan of Mr. Hawk, are you?
I just don't. I don't think it was ever on my radar back when Tony Hawk's was at its peak. To be honest,
interesting.
I think I heard of it later, so I don't really know what to expect. But from what I can tell, I think Skate's a bit more simulation and a bit less arcadey.
You're 100% correct there. I played quite a bit of Skate 2 and Skate 3, not the original, randomly. And you're absolutely right. It's definitely less arcadey and more simulation, but it's more accurate, I would say, in terms of the way that you use the controls. The control scheme is mapped a little bit more where it feels a bit more correct in terms of, like moving the front of the board, the front leg and the back leg and so on too. But I think it's going to do great things. I mean, a lot of people have been hyped for a new Skate game for quite some time.
I mean, so bring Skate it on 3 is practically 10-year-old, if not older at this point, right? It's been dormant for quite a while, so
surely,
let's just hope it doesn't go the way of Mirror's Edge, when everyone clambers for it and then does not buy it when it comes out, when they actually make the follow-up.
I think that would be my worry about this, because I don't know how big the skating scene is, where Tony Hawk's 1 and 2, I think, done really well, but that had the nostalgia card to play heavily. And it was also a slightly cheaper title, where a brand new, if this was like a $60 game, is that audience big enough?
Yeah, I think it'd have to be clever.
I generally don't know, so it depends what EA are expecting from it. Which the reason I kind of feel that is because it's been 10 years since they released a skate game. So to me, that's EA's market analysis going, it's not worthwhile.
Yeah.
And my worry with this is maybe have they changed their mind on the backs of the reception to Tony Hawk's 1 and 2, where that might just be literally the nostalgia card I play, because I got
trying to cash in
purely on nostalgia, really.
Yeah, well, May 2010 it was released.
I really hope it does well.
Ooh, wow!
Which is a long, and by the time this is obviously made, if they're only just announcing the studio now, we're probably not going to see it for another year or so, depending on how far the development already is.
12 years.
A question I've got, I suppose, is interesting. Obviously, Mr. Is it Tony Hawk or Tony Hawk's? Tony Hawk.
No S.
Mr. Tony Hawk, is he must be in his 50s now, right?
He's 52.
Right, and I saw a video this week where he completed his first 720 Is it an Indy 720? If for the first time in like years, because he's getting on a bit.
It's probably his last 720 as well, to be honest.
So how long does that name carry like a skating brand or franchise, I guess, if he can no longer skate?
Skater. His son Riley's a professional skater as well.
I suppose,
I think Tony Hawk's is synonymous with skating like throughout the decades.
To us, though.
So even when he retires and does his last kickflip, I think that's kind of... I think the name will still stand. He's
as legendary as Pele is to football, really.
Well, look at Madden. We've just been talking about Madden.
Well, yeah. How many people just think that's the name of the game, like FIFA? That's not actually a player.
Yeah.
Who's like Hall of Fame status.
So yeah, I think Tony Hawk, the title for the games it's fine.
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
not gonna...
Yeah, they're certainly in good company up there because EA Sports, the new Full Circle team is going to be based in Vancouver, where we know they've got the EA Sports teams. Full Circle are going to drop in there with the likes of Respawn and the rest of the EA divisions as well. So they're surrounded. What kind of goes back to our news story from last week? If anyone who missed it, obviously Vicarious Visions was folded in with Blizzard, and they just made the two. The Tony Hawk's 1 and 2 remaster that just dropped that you absolutely loved to pieces, Richie. Do you think they're going to make a play for all of their staff? Come and join us and make a Skate 4 game when your studio's just been shuttered into Blizzard, I guess?
I'm not going to put it as EA going to make a play for their staff. I think there might be some staff at Vicarious Visions who, especially those who are most passionate about the Tony Hawk's reboot, who might be looking at this and sending out some applications.
It's a good potential talent pool to pull from if you're looking for people who are familiar with skate games. They've literally just made the best-selling one over the last 5-6 years.
Especially with imagine if you're a massive Tony Hawk's fan, you've just been really passionate about doing 1 and 2. You've absolutely nailed it. You're on a bit of a high, and then you get told that basically the studio you work for is now largely going to be reconverted into a support studio for Blizzard. You might be feeling... I can see how you might be feeling a bit, okay, I've enjoyed my time here, but what's the next step in my career? And then this news comes up. It seems like a good fit. Yeah. I don't think it's... I'm going to assume there's not going to be nothing malicious like EA, really banging on the door, Blizzard going, we want all your staff or anything, but I could see people jumping ship.
Yeah, interesting sequence of events. That 1 week we get a skate developer essentially closing down, then we get a brand new skate studio opening up. It's coincidental timing, nonetheless.
I mean, EA might have had an eye on that when they decided to push the news when they did.
Very true.
Potentially so.
While things like maybe a bit upended at Vicarious Visions as the changes are getting made in, as just people moving on to new projects and things. This is the time when it's probably easier to poach staff.
Definitely. But anyway, let's move on. Let's kickflip our way out of that story and into the next one. As part of the Lara Croft 25th anniversary this year, we got an announcement. It was kind of like a tweet video post that came out from a bunch of people celebrating the community, nostalgic content and surprises. So Crystal Dynamics, we know part of Square Enix, have been working on a couple of titles in the Tomb Raider franchise reboot, one of which obviously Richie's playing right now. It was a pro game, and they've been on Stadia since day one. And this is the type of genre that I'm personally a massive fan of. They're probably my favourite style of game, that more linear story, character-driven title. So they announced a couple of things to look forward to over the course of the next year. They've announced an anime series that's going to be dropping on Netflix. They've obviously got the sequel to Alicia Vikander's movie, which I didn't think was that bad, actually. I did enjoy that quite a bit.
Yeah, I did.
The kind of retelling of the first
I
game.
Watched it.
It's kind of the first reboot game, Richie, told into a Hollywood movie, essentially, with some weird
might have to watch it.
creative difference decisions. But I actually enjoyed it. I thought she was a really good Lara Croft, and I'm glad they've greenlit a sequel, because I think it's a shame when these video game movies just die because of a lukewarm reception, when we know the IP's got enough story in it to create much better movies further down the line if you just give them time. So just that Doom movie with The Rock. Exactly. But I suppose the biggest story that came out of all of the Tomb Raider news is that they're in fact not done with the reboot world of games, which has me super excited. And in amongst that, they've actually announced that they're in development of a new game. I don't think it's far along at all yet, because of course Crystal Dynamics switched over to the Avengers franchise, and we all know how that's working out for them so far. I think they haven't returned any profit on that yet, from what the last news article I read was. So, again, I have faith in the Avengers, but whether Square Enix and Crystal Dynamics do long term is still to be kind of decided. But the big exciting news is they're going to try and tie it in with the original games. So the reboots exist, they're continuing the reboot, but they're also going to create the new games with a mind's eye of linking them back to the old games. So my question to you, gentlemen, we'll start with you, Tom. Are we going to see dinosaurs in Tomb Raider once again? Because they exist in the OG ones.
Yeah. I mean, that is something, isn't it? And whether we go down the route of finding like ancient warriors and mummies in tombs and stuff like that again, who knows? I just want to be able to lock Winston back in the fridge again.
Yes. Everyone clambers for that. Everyone is all over that.
Absolutely. No, you pose a good question, an interesting question, really, because I like to think that the new trilogy, the most recent trilogy, is definitely a lot more realistic, shall we say, a little bit more grounded, and graphic to an extent as well. That dinosaurs, really?
I can see it.
Get with the times.
I can see, because bear in mind, she's all about finding like lost cities and civilizations and stuff. She can find like this eco bubble where dinosaurs survived in.
Yeah, I mean, spoilers for game number 1 came out 7-8 years ago. If you've not played it, that's
if you haven't, watch our Let's Play.
Yeah,
series.
that our first Let's Play series. In that game, obviously, you find like the Oni warriors and Yamatai, and there's a possessed Sun Queen, I guess. So, is it weird how we're okay with that, but then dinosaurs is too much of a stretch?
Yeah. Some gods are fine, dinosaurs are not.
Even though we know dinosaurs are real, fact.
The thing is, there are indigenous tribes in the world, and there are people who have been separated from civilization, but there aren't dinosaurs.
But they were dinosaurs.
That we know. We haven't found them yet.
It could be like just Journey to the center of the earth.
They haven't done the game.
Journey to the center of the earth.
It could
because
be like
that
a
was accurate.
whole Earth theory.
Yeah, that accurate film.
Was that The Rock as well? Was that Brendan Fraser?
Was it the sequel? It was the sequel, wasn't it? Brendan Fraser was the first one.
Right. The Rock's in so many things, I just presume he's part of everything now. He'll be in Skate 4 when it comes out.
Going back to the actual story, do you not think this is a kind of a weird risk to take that they don't necessarily need to try and link it back into games that came out in the early PS1 era that weren't that as heavy a story, the characters weren't as fleshed out, when they've successfully rebooted the franchise and moved away from that era?
Yeah,
it just feels weird to try and like pull it back.
I do feel like they would be better.
You're going well.
Yeah, they would be better surely just like making the next entry reintroduce things from the other games. But I suppose they're
concepts.
Yeah, they've kind of put themselves in a corner because obviously the 2013 game was an origin story, whereas the other games have already happened then in theory. So it's I suppose negating that narrative a little bit.
So my assumption now is the way they're going to probably work it is it's like Tomb Raider, Rise of Tomb Raider, Shadow of Tomb Raider, then the PS1 Tomb Raider 1.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be the chronology of it. But
I don't know.
I don't think like current Lara and previous Lara are the same character really. Like one's a character.
I mean, if you play the 20th anniversary edition, you can have polygonal Lara running around in modern game world, which is a bit trippy to say the least.
I don't know. I mean, if they do it well, it could be done really well, but it just feels like an unnecessary risk.
I feel like we're stuck in a bit of a time loop here, where we're going to go through and we're going to end up seeing a reboot of the original trilogy, just remastered essentially, remade.
If they did a ground up reboot of the original trilogy, that might make this actually all work better.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because then they could work into some of the new characterization of Lara that they rebooted. Because they didn't just reboot the game; they rebooted Lara as a character as well.
Yeah, but this is where I start to get a little bit annoyed now because like. I really like the concept of the origin story and what they did with the character. I like what they did with the franchise. I think we can all agree with that. But whenever they go back, and again, this is just based on speculation that we've just said right there, but if they were to remake the original games from the ground up, that's when I start to get a little bit less interested, because while I have that nostalgic feel for them, and I did play all of the original Tomb Raider games, I start to feel then that it's a bit of a cop out, and that they're sort of just like it's sort of like it's just their cash cow at that point then. And that's what I don't like with a lot of the ways that the game industry is going at the moment, with sort of like remaking for the sake of nostalgia's purpose and not coming up with original ideas. So I would prefer that concept, like you said, Richie. I'd prefer it if they were to go that route, if they wanted to tie them all together. But I don't like it. I don't necessarily agree with it.
Yeah, this is why I'm kind of got mixed feelings about it. Is like, I think it could be done very well, but we actually don't know how they're going to go about it. So that's all we can do is kind of watch this space really and see what their decisions are. But it's like, you know, when you're just reading something, it's like, why are you doing that? It just seems like you're setting yourself up for backlash in some way, shape, or form, and it seems unnecessary when you could just keep progressing the Lara that you've already created. And you know, you can always go back and take concepts from the older games and put them in a new context.
Well, for me, it's certainly just the fact that we're going to get another game is fantastic, because in the midst of no Uncharted games out recently, and we know the Indiana Jones game is quite far off, I do feel like I'm missing that action, literal adventure, single-player narrative game. So this has me excited anyway, and I always it's nice to see.
Yeah,
I'm curious how it's going to tie into the movies, the anime series, because the Castlevania anime series on Netflix is fantastic as well. If you've not checked that out, it's brilliant, Richie. So it is. And I haven't even really played the Castlevania games that much. I just think the premise of the game lends itself so well to a show. And I think we'll probably see more of these, because we've got a Game of Thrones one announced, I think. We've got a Tomb Raider one announced. There's obviously Castlevania stuff. I feel like there's loads. The Witcher. I feel like The Witcher's getting an animated one as well. But either way, it's just more creative outlets, I suppose, in 2021. Moving on then to the next news story of the week is our good friends over at SEGA have announced
That's
SEGA to those who didn't get that pitch. We've had rumour for quite some time that they are potentially looking to sell or be bought out by someone, but there's kind of movements happening that the tectonic shifts of the gaming industry are definitely going ahead, because Sega's splitting their gaming company into two separate divisions. So they have a big pachinko business over in Japan and that side of the world, similar to Konami and stuff, I think, really, where their actual gaming division isn't that important to them. They make a lot more money in other arms and different industries. However, Sega this week decided that they were going to separate their video games division and their pachinko business, which to me, and I'm sure a lot of people out there in the gaming industry suspect, this is separating their assets for a potential buyout. So, Richie, I'll throw it over to you first. Will we see Sonic be bought?
I'm going to say for now and no, because I think when you look into it, the pachinko business and the video game publishing business, they're very different businesses. So having them under the same company structure doesn't actually make much sense to me. So I see this as, at the moment, just as a surface level, we need to just restructure the company, because then it could be a boon to both arms of the business. But there again, I'm not going to rule out that it definitely does make it easier to buy the video game publishing side of Sega. But I think the speculation on it seems to be just purely other people echoing other people's speculation.
Okay.
Where there doesn't seem to be any solid sources. I mean, if you do have a solid source, comments below by all means. But
interesting.
Yeah, I think this could be just one of them things like Stadia Gen 2, where people keep talking about it, despite the fact that there's been no official word ever, apart from Google saying there's not really a Gen 2.
Right. So you're thinking you're keeping your running shoes firmly grounded.
I'm just taking this at the surface level of what it is, just a corporate restructure.
Interesting. How about yourself, Tom?
Okay. I think Sonic can be bought for a lifetime supply of chili dogs, of all things. There's a reference to the cartoon for you. it's no secret that Sega have been struggling recently, both like in financial terms they have been struggling, but they have seen an uptick in game sales. So it's a valuable asset. It really depends on where their parent company, Sega Sammy Holdings, actually sort of have see their future really. Most of the struggles have been coming from the pachinko side of the business, and that's expected because of the COVID pandemic. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't go out to arcades, you can't do that kind of thing at the moment, is what I imagine the situation is in Japan. But we also do know that the pachinko industry and the arcade industry in Japan is huge. So when all of this blows over, whether there'll be some sort of resurgence there. I'd like to entertain the thought that Stadia, Stadia? Sega. Stadia. that Sega could be up for sale, but I have a strong feeling that Microsoft would make a massive play for it if that's the case.
I think there's going to be a lot. If Sega is publishing business with all its IPs, including things like Sonic and Football Manager, let's not forget there's more than just Sonic and Sega.
Oh yeah.
If that was up for sale, I think there'd be a lot of interested parties. I think Nintendo will be sniffing around. Sony probably would. Microsoft would be. I could even see maybe like a Square Enix having a look.
Because we know how important the mascot is. Back to our other story as well, is they have announced another 3D animated cartoon in development for Netflix, so that's another one. Because they just they recast the voice actor who's done all the other shows as well for them, so they're getting someone new in. So we'll hear a fresh voice for the Blue Blur when that comes around, and obviously the sequel to the movie's in development. So there is cogs turning for Sonic, but. Yeah, it just seems, I mean, we know the fall from grace from Sega from being a console maker. There's an alternate universe out there where the Mega Drive 5 is currently out and no one can get hold of one, pre-order them or anything. But in terms of the actual company, it just adds fuel to the flames, I guess, in doing a restructure that definitively separates your games arm of the business. It just like titillate the senses a little bit with, anyone could come in. I think Microsoft might have still blown their wallet recently with Bethesda, which we know is still being finalised. But yeah, I mean, would it be a good move for Stadia, or is it just kind of throwing money at something that's available for the sake of it?
I'd love to see Google get on board with it. I'd love to see Google splash their cash on it. But the reality is, again, I don't know who the biggest player would be. I don't know whether Nintendo would step up to the plate and want to absorb Sega and its IPs as well, because it's that nice relationship that they've got there already.
It's even possible that we're assuming that the whole thing is sold as a lump sum. It's possible that it's ripped apart and Sonic goes to Nintendo. Some of the publishing stuff goes to Microsoft. Well, yeah, it could go several ways. Well, if we assume they are getting sold, how the owners think they might get the most bang for the buck.
Well, that's true, because obviously they've got Persona, which is very heavily Sony focused, and then they've got the Yakuza series, and then they do a bunch of other. Do they do Total War still, Sega? Is that Sega?
Ooh, that's a good shout.
I think so. It was actually Persona that why I threw out Square, because I could see Square being a publisher for something like a Persona game. It feels kind of in Square's wheelhouse more than Microsoft's.
Yeah, and obviously,
but there again, Microsoft are clearly wanting to diversify the portfolio. Yeah, but then Persona's been very strongly linked with Sony through its entire run, so you've got all these caveats there. That's why I think Square could be a good publisher, and Square do seem to have no problems doing exclusivities with individual platforms.
That is true. They've had a history for it. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on this Sega business split, see how it rolls out. Wouldn't be surprised, again, as we creep towards the kind of the financial year coming to a close. We usually find investor leaks and news comes out for all the big shifts. So if any of these purchases are going to happen, it's probably either going to be just before the deadline or at the beginning of the next financial cycle. So keep your eyes peeled in the coming weeks for those type of stories. Which, interestingly enough, following on from that one, the next story of the week is Tencent, who we know have been sniffing around buying other companies. They've just bought they've just given a big cash injection of about 30 million to Don't Nod, who are did the first Life is Strange series, which was a Square Enix property. They own the IP, I guess, for Life is Strange. They didn't do Life is Strange 2. I think that was handed over to a different developer, if I recall. I can't remember the names not coming to my mind. But they obviously made Life is Strange 2. Deck 9, they're the people. Yeah. Deck 9 did that one. Obviously episodic, so that they suffered from that kind of telltale one. I haven't played Life is Strange 2 because of the episodic nature of it. I didn't want to buy one, then wait a month or two, and then two. And
I think I've talked about before in the podcast where I think the gaps between I like episodic content. I think it works quite well, but the gaps sometimes are way too big, and then you fizzle out. If it's taking over a year to release the full game, that's a problem.
Yeah, but it does go back to the story though. Tencent, money, big Chinese firm. I feel like I see a story like nearly every other week now about how they've bought more shares, or a no strings attached cash injection of a cool couple million. I'm like, who has that kind of money to just give it away without any repercussion or strings attached?
It's almost as if like the stock market's down because of COVID, and they're flexing their muscle a bit to buy stocks while they're cheaper.
Stock market's not down. Invest in GameStop, baby, to the moon.
Apart from GameStop, but yeah.
So I'm with you. Yeah,
it's interesting.
It's interesting. It is very interesting. Yeah. There's no real sort of reasoning to why they've given a cash injection. They just sort of want to say, here you go. Yeah. Save this for a rainy day. And
I think they're just investing in the gaming industry. So like, okay, we'll take whatever.
Remember Daddy Tencent
percentage,
2 years
whatever
time.
Percentage of the ownership of your studio for this lump sum of cash, which is probably going to keep Don't Nod alive for the next year or two.
Yeah.
And whatever projects are going, keep going. Bear in mind, they're a relatively small studio. They must have been hit massively by the pandemic.
True.
And then when everything returns to normal after COVID, they'll probably see a decent return on the investment.
It's just it's all shifty business to me. Like Tom said, Big Daddy Tencent.
It's Sugar Daddy Tencent right now. Yeah, Sugar Daddy Tencent.
Capitalism. It's like
chucking cash and yachts and things around, just trying to keep those young studios sweet.
Well, that's it. We very much live in the world of acquisitions now. If you think we've got Disney buying up every property under the sun for their Disney Plus division and their movies, and then you've got in the gaming world, obviously Microsoft, Sony buying studios recently. If Stadia and Amazon Luna and all these newcomers aren't quick, there's not going to be much left on the table to potentially bolster your development squad. So, especially if Tencent are making such a push for the West. Which they seem to be by just slowly but surely acquiring all these bits. It's either going to be Tencent or the Embracer Group. Let's face it, THQ Nordic are out there too, picking up everyone left, right and centre that's floating around their gravitational pull. So makes for an interesting interesting kind of future roadmap for the games industry. But we'll keep you all up to date with it, so just stick with us and we'll keep you in the loop of the news. But I suppose we'll pivot back towards some Stadia specific stories now, and Tom, you'll be thrilled with this one. No doubt we're going to buy it, then it'll be a pro game in a few months time. But we got the announcement of Kaze and the Wild Masks.
Kaze.
Why? Well, I'm going to say Kaze because it just looks like it. So the Monster Boy / Sonic the Hedgehog kind of
it's got heavy Sonic vibes.
Lola Bunny from Space Jam vibes was announced as coming on March 26th to all platforms, including Google Stadia as well. Still excited for this one, Tom?
Absolutely. It's real 90s platforming nostalgia. I mean, look at the success of Sonic Mania. I need something to fill that gap, so yeah, absolutely. I can't wait for it.
Hopefully Sonic Mania.
If you watch the trailer of it, like the third area it shows you could have literally just been ripped out of Sonic games. It's got like the classic log rope bridge. It's got things floating above it. Zone. Yeah, it really does look like Green Hill or Emerald Hill Zone. But yeah, cool.
And off the back of that game announcement, we got a couple of more ratings come through, which we always like scouring through the rating news because it gives us a good insight into what to expect. A couple of new titles, one of which is Killer Queen Black. If you've not seen this game before, it's a pixel-based game where you have two teams. They fight with different classes of character. I think one is the queen, one is the is like a worker bee and one's a slug, if I recall, and you basically combat in an arena to get from one side to the other. But you all have kind of abilities and power ups that almost like Pokemon. Fire beats grass, and grass is beat by water.
It gives me big Towerfall Ascension vibes when I look at it. So essentially, you've got like the queen who essentially has to protect the hive. You've got the worker who goes around like fighting the soldiers that fight other soldiers. You've got the workers that need to collect things, but it's definitely got that sort of like the animation and that sort of like 2D art definitely gives me Towerfall vibes. So
yeah,
I don't know much about the game really.
There seems like 3 ways you can win a game. 1, by killing the opposition's queen. 2, I think it's collecting enough of the resources so you get an economic victory. And 3, progressing the snail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the one everyone forgets about, because apparently this game is fantastic. I've seen a lot of people really buzz over this, and like not the fighting community, but like the competitive scene. And everybody forgets about the snail because it just ticks away at the bottom of the screen. There's all this frantic actions going on elsewhere, and all the people trying to get the honey, save the queen, do all that action, and right at the bottom of the screen there's just this snail slowly moving along. So
there's definitely a stream in this at some point.
Oh yeah, it's apparently really fun, and it's a kind of a reboot, I think, to the original game. But I've heard nothing but good things about it, so I'm excited to see when Killer Queen Black gets a release date on Stadia. And in the lack, I suppose, of FIFA action, gentlemen, we are being subsidised somewhat by the next title that was ESRB rated, and that is Street Power Football.
Oh dear. I feel like this is a notch down on Pro Evo as well, isn't it? Really, this isn't FIFA. It ain't Pro Evo. It's
nothing like. It seems to be nothing like FIFA or Pro Evo. It's very much street doing tricks, like weird shots into garbage cans and.
Yeah. It looks more like it's a bunch of mini games with almost like a FIFA Street kind of put into it, but
it reminds me of that Mario football game. What was that? There was a Mario football game that came out
for the Wii.
Mario.
Power or something.
Yeah.
Is it like Mario Strike or something?
Oh
like that?
Strikers, something along those lines. But either way, it's got a more cartoon animated aesthetic to it, and it looks like there's lots of mini games that take part.
A lot of freestyle stuff.
Yeah, a lot of freestyle stuff, but not quite the football soccer simulator that I was looking for, unfortunately.
It could be fun.
It could be fun. It could be pro game written all over it. But I don't. Unfortunately, in my void of FIFA-ness, this doesn't quite fill that gap, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it's been rated, so no doubt we'll probably see it soon.
I think Madden scratches the itch more than this, and that Madden's a different sport.
Which says a lot, yeah. But I'm sure it'll have an audience out there.
Yeah.
Go fill your boots with Street Power Football when it does drop. While we wait. Big news on the Marvel Avengers front, however, this week. They dropped an announcement that we've got a story coming up. One of the War Table events has been scheduled for February 16th, so just after Valentine's Day this year. So two weeks from now, I guess, just over. They're going to drop the next bit of news for Hawkeye, which we know Kate Bishop was released just before Christmas. They're a bit behind schedule with this game. Hawkeye is part of the Kate Bishop story, with her being his protege, but that's going to be the next the drop that comes in part for the Avengers roadmap. That's really it. They didn't announce any more, which I'm guessing they're going to hopefully end the event with a tease of who is to follow Hawkeye, because having Kate Bishop being an archer and then follow up with your second character as another archer, unless his moveset's drastically different.
My issue is, from what we know so far, it doesn't resolve any of the issues I have with that game, and that the game's just kind of a bit bland when you get to the multiplayer. Adding more characters isn't going to solve that. So hopefully they got something a bit more in the War Table to convince me otherwise, especially if they want to get players coming back to the game.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, Avengers, because I do think the people who appreciate the grind nature of the game out there, this is the type of content that brings people back in to bolster those squads. They have announced as well that they're going to be showcasing the PS5 and Xbox Series X and S versions as well, which were also supposed to launch at the back end of last year, and they were pushed back too, unlike Cyberpunk. But we're going to finally see them. So it kind of posed the question, will we see Stadia see an improvement on graphic fidelity or stuff as well? We're getting into that weird time now, gentlemen, where
we are.
Will we be seeing Stadia improvements, or is it going to be done all behind the scenes and we just one day boot the game up and go, oh, there's ray tracing, there's something
This looks better than I remember.
Yeah, so we're reaching that time.
Certainly are. Yeah. Certainly are.
Stadia occupies that weird space where it almost feels like between generations at times. Mm-hmm. So when some publishers talk about next generation, some of them are talking about Stadia and some of them aren't. So it's hard to know unless it's specifically mentioned.
Again, I think a lot of the comparisons between Stadia and console need to sort of be pushed back a little bit, because the way I'm starting to sort of develop my own opinion of Stadia now is it's more akin to PC gaming on a sort of like fluctuating level where you actually have a graphics slider and different games are coming out at different points on that slider, really. So I don't think it's ever going to be directly comparable to next gen and so on, but we'll see.
Just again, the nature of the technology means it's probably always going to be probably a little step down just because it's not locally rendered. But I think as Stadia gets more popular as a platform, we'll see that gap close because developers will spend more time optimizing their games for the platform.
Mm-hmm. Naturally, as we get further into next gen, the lines will become more blurred. Yeah.
The more people on the platform, the more profitable it is to have your game on there. The more profitable it is to have your game on there, the more time you're going to spend on it.
Yeah, I just think as companies start to use things like Unreal Engine 5 and stuff as well, and then that's been built for Stadia, the kind of lines and the differentiated quality between each title, I guess, will just become less and less as time goes on.
I don't know about you, but at the end of the PS4 generation, I wasn't clamouring for a massive graphical overhaul or anything like that. Would have been content for another couple of years. Yeah. I mean, I do have a PS5. It's awesome. But I play Stadia more than PS5.
PS5 has no games.
I mean, it has my entire PS4 back library.
I mean, well, we won't go down that rabbit hole, but
not an hour into the show.
Not this stage of the journey. But yeah, little updates then. So that's Avengers. We got an update kind of in the news for Project 007 as well. From obviously, Hitman is still flourishing. I feel like because it's the only big title out at the moment, it's getting all the news attention. I'm hearing nothing but great things about it. But the developers did also mention this week a little bit of an update that it won't be featuring a character or an actor, I should say, from the movie universe of things. So we won't be seeing Daniel Craig's likeness, Pierce Brosnan, Sean Connery, anyone from back in the day. It's going to be a brand new one, which to me it's the best choice. You don't want your game associated with movie tie-ins or anything like that. That's the best thing for this franchise, is to focus and make a universe that is unique to IO's decision, I think.
Yeah, you don't want to make a game at this point that uses like Daniel Craig's likeness and then he leaves the franchise after the next film and they get like Idris Elba in, and then you look at the characters like, that's not Bond.
Yeah, but I just think in general we've had few games that do use the likeness to a good degree. We had like Everything or Nothing that did use Pierce Brosnan, then we had From Russia with Love with Sean Connery, but to a point where graphic fidelity is getting so good now, it would almost be like an uncanny valley, similar to Avengers actually, where you'd look at it and go, so whoever they do cast to follow up from Daniel Craig, to look at it and go, it's not quite right though.
Yeah, I think it gives them more creative control as well, because then you're not always chasing after the characterization of a Pierce Brosnan or Daniel Craig or Sean Connery. You can kind of take your own interpretation on the character.
And even then, the character of 007 James Bond doesn't have to be associated with a particular person, because we know that role gets filled by different people. It's just part of the transition, really, isn't it? It just... It is what it is.
Yeah, I suppose that bodes better. It's not like you've got Robert Downey Jr. and everyone only ever associates Iron Man now in the past 10 years with him, whereas Bond's already been played by so many people.
It's a moniker.
Yeah, exactly. If you want an interesting look for Bond, check out Agent Underfire from the PS2 era, because I don't know what their decision was in that game, but they got stuck somewhere between, we want it to look like Pierce Brosnan, but we don't have the license to use his face, so let's make some just weird mash-up together of someone who might resemble him, and you just end up with generic guy 101 in that. But it's nice to see. I'm interested to see it, and I think all the success of Hitman is really, really, really hyping me up for what this game will look like, especially with how well that's been received. So nice bit of story there. And we should probably wrap up the show, gentlemen, with not really Stadia specific, but I wanted to touch on it just based on previous news stories. So can you guys remember my rant about Control back when it came out? So obviously Control is available on Amazon Luna, which tells us that there is a cloud version that exists out there. We know Nintendo Switch has Control via their streaming service, so it's surely a matter of time before it comes over to Stadia. I'm hoping so anyway. Again, Remedy, we theorised in last week, one of the post shows, I think it was a post show anyway, that their Remedy is ideal, right for the picking to be acquired by Stadia anyway. The Ultimate Edition they brought out. So I, as a purchaser of the game day one and the season pass day one, got screwed over when they announced the Ultimate Edition, because you had to buy it all again if you wanted to play it on next gen. Whoever does these deals has decided to come out and screw everyone over once again, because it's now going to be free for their February PlayStation Plus games. So those poor bastards, not me, thankfully, who bought the game originally for full price, enjoyed it, and then did not get a free upgrade to next gen, but then thought, you know what, I really enjoyed Control, I'm going to buy the Ultimate Edition when it came out the back end of last year, spent another £40 on the Ultimate Edition for the next gen upgrade, find out in February that it's going to be free anyway.
Yeah.
That's just...
I wonder if a part of the backlash they faced from that sort of scenario you just described has left like the people buying the PS5 version like quite slim on the ground, that people when buying the upgraded version when upgrading their current version almost on like principle, so they decided to get it out on Pro as a way of kind of getting in people's hands, but they've just like, pass me the shovel. I mean, this is great for me because it's the game I've been interested in a while, just never got round to, and now I have the best version on PS5, so I'm pretty happy with this personally. But if you already own the game, maybe not so much.
I think 505 made a bit of a problem, like bit of a mistake there, didn't they? Really,
yeah.
They've definitely soured the taste of for fans in them, like just not good.
Yeah, when it was at the time when like a lot of companies were coming out and going, yeah, you can get upgrade for free to the PS5 version when we drop it as just basically a free patch.
They turn around and
well, if you've already got this version, you can't. But if you got this version, you can. And then how many different versions does the game need? It's
just getting a bit out of control, realistically.
Yeah, I mean, you got the ultimate version, the complete version, the definitive edition, the definitive edition plus.
It's it's just a bit manic, but I would like to see it come on Stadia. I just thought it's a shame. It almost, the problem it lends, I think, is it's things like this that make me think for consumers out there needs to be more regulation around this kind of thing, because it's not fair. If you're buying something, then it's changing price, or you're getting basically the people who are buying it are getting screwed over within weeks of these decisions being made, and it's just not. It's not right. It's not fair.
It's a weird thing that the game industry is very self-regulated, and I think this is a completely new scenario we're talking about, because most over generations there's been such a significant change in how the hardware operates, rather than just basically an improved GPU, improved CPU, that sort of thing. Yeah, that it's never been an issue because it was very much a distinct line between the generations, where this is the line's a lot more blurred now. Yeah,
it's unfortunate. Stories like this, I think it creates prying eyes for things like governments and MPs and stuff to like look over and go, oh, microtransactions, let's get involved in that, and then like regulation about pricing and control, it gets brought in with that, and then I think it just sets a bad precedence for people who don't understand look what happened with all the violent stuff back in the 90s with like Mortal Kombat and stuff, and how politicians got involved without really understanding what was going on, and then now that went to the assumption that video games breed violence in people, and I know, well, we all know that that's not true. But it's things like that. People who get their hands in the pies, who don't understand it. It just But anyway, that's my little rant for the end of the episode. Finally, gentlemen, busy week for Stadia, busy week for games in general, and it's nice to finally start talking about new and upcoming things on the horizon. We've got new exciting games. We've got new DLCs dropping. I think Immortals. Phoenix Rising dropped their first content this past Friday, I think it was, so there's exciting opportunities for that. I've seen an article about Assassin's Creed Valhalla coming up. I have passed the 100-hour mark now, Richie. Order of the Agents, dead, wiped out. I've killed them all. There is none left in England. I've cleansed the land of those that horrible cult. And now I'm essentially catching fish, which we all know how I feel about that.
Are you going for 100% completion then?
Yep, I'm doing it.
You're a madman.
I've got fish and all the mysteries and artifacts to catch, and I need to find a few hidden weapons, but I won't spoil that because they're hidden. What about you two? What are you playing this week as we wrap up the show?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I have been thinking about actually starting up Cyberpunk now. I think I might have a little bit of time to finally sink my teeth into it at this point, but I'm yet to fully decide. We'll see. I mean, there's still Valhalla to play as well, really. I've got so much on my plate. So much on my plate right now.
Yeah. And your pro games as of tomorrow or today.
And my pro games.
Yeah.
Richie, how about you?
For me, it's going to be Rise of the Tomb Raider. I'm going to sink some time into that. Depending how quickly I get through it. I don't think I'm going to go for 100% completion on it. But I might jump into Control after.
Yeah, of course. Control's coming as well. Interesting stuff. So thank you, everybody, for stopping by for the Sounds of Stadia podcast, episode number 70. Do remember to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow and get past that elusive 1K mark, which at the time of listening, if we've passed the 1K mark, drop down in the comments. Say hello. Let us know that you are one of those amazing. Let us know you are one of those amazing people who helped us push past that magical number. And we are about to head away and have a little conversation side quest, as it was, as part of the Sounds of Stadia post show, where this week we're going to be talking about our Stadia Games Watch for February and March, because we've got some titles on the horizon, gentlemen, that we've not heard anything about. Titles like Little Nightmares 2, titles like Prince of Persia, that are coming from developers that we've already got games on the platform, but they've been...
Titles like FIFA.
Well, that probably will slip in there at some point. But essentially, there's a couple of games that are due out in the coming weeks, and we're yet to hear nothing about. We've got Little Nightmares. We've got other Ubisoft games. So where are these particular titles? So we're going to go theorise about that. And if you want to check that out, it's available through patreon.com/Sounds of Stadia a little bit earlier. But if you can wait, if you're a patient individual out there and you don't want to give us an extra dollar or pound, whatever it ends up being, show us that extra support, you can just hang fire until Friday when it drops on free feed. So check that out if you wish to. Well, thank you once again for your support this week. My name's been Chris.
I've been Tom.
And I've been Richie.
We've been Sounds of Stadia, everybody. Thank you for stopping by. Have a great week.